And keep meditating as I read these words from Swamiji on success. True success means transcendence. It means finding what we really want, which is not outward things, but inner peace of mind, self-understanding, and above all, the joy of God. Outward success means transcendence also. It means rising above past accomplishments to reach new levels of achievement. Success can mean accepting failure too, when such acceptance helps us to transcend a false ambition. Every failure, moreover, can be a stepping stone to the highest achievement. Success should not be measured by the things accomplished, but by our increasing understanding, ability, and closeness to God. And please affirm with me, I leave behind me both my failures and accomplishments.
I leave behind me both my failures and accomplishments.
What I do today
What I do today
will create a new and better future,
will create a new and better future,
filled with inner joy.
filled with inner joy.
I leave behind me both my failures and accomplishments.
I leave behind me both my failures and accomplishments.
What I do today
What I do today
will create a new and better future,
will create a new and better future,
filled with inner joy.
filled with inner joy.
A little more quietly. I leave behind me both my failures and accomplishments.
I leave behind me both my failures and accomplishments.
What I do today
What I do today
will create a new and better future,
will create a new and better future,
filled with inner joy.
filled with inner joy.
And now in a whisper, I leave behind me both my failures and accomplishments.
I leave behind
What I do today
what I do today
will create a new and better future, filled with inner joy. And now silently, with deep attention at the spiritual eye, I leave behind me both my failures and accomplishments. What I do today will create a new and better future, filled with inner joy. And please pray silently with me. O Creator of galaxies and countless blazing stars, the power of the very universe is thine. May I reflect that power in the little mirror of my life and consciousness. Om Shanti Shanti. Amen.
Well, good morning to everyone and those tuning in online. This reading is from Whispers from Eternity. Entitled Dance in Me, Thy Dance of Infinity. O Mother Divine, I have learned to love thy dance of destruction. For I see now that what is destroyed is my own ignorance and folly. Thou hast shattered again and again with thy warred dance of destruction my fragile cage of bones and flesh, and consigned it to crematory flames. Thou hast done so smilingly, to show me and everyone that our souls are ever free, and cannot be burned or broken. With thy mercy, thou hast stripped away, sometimes seemingly with harshness, but always with loving purpose, the countless hardened, mud-encrusted covers of delusion coated us. I appreciate now thy dance of destruction, Mother. Together let us cremate my every desire, frailty, weakness, and finitude, forever and forever. I'll join thee laughing in thy dance of evil's destruction. O Mother, since nothing more is left now of my finiteness, for thee to destroy, dance in me thy dance of infinity and of cosmic love. And from The Path by Swami Ananda, this is drawn from the chapter Paramahansa Yogananda. In Ranchi, India, I was told a touching story dating back to Master's return there in 1935. It seems that an anniversary banquet was planned at his school. Someone was needed to preside over the function and give it official standing. The name of Guru Das Banerjee, a prominent judge, was recommended. Widely esteemed, this man was, as everyone agreed, the best possible choice. Master went to invite him. What was Master's surprise then when the judge coldly refused to come? He knew all about India's so-called holy men. He said he was looking at a typical example of them right before him. They were insincere, after people's money, a drain on the community. He had no patience with them, nor time to speak for their worthless causes. Master, though astonished by this reception, was unruffled by it. As he often told us, praise cannot make me any better, nor blame any worse. I am what I am before my conscience and God. After hearing the judge out, he replied in a friendly tone, well, perhaps you'll reconsider. We'd be greatly honored if you would come. The principal of a local school, meanwhile, agreed to preside in the judge's stead. When everyone had assembled for the banquet that evening, and the affair was about to begin, a car drove up. Out stepped the caustic judge. Since Guru Das Banerjee was such a prominent figure in those parts, the school principal readily offered his own place to him. After the banquet, there were several preliminary reports. One dealt with the school's growth and with the number of students who had gone on after graduation to become monks and religious teachers. If this present trend continues, the report read, soon all of India will be covered with our graduates spreading the ancient wisdom of our land. Then came the judge's turn to speak. Rising, he said, today is one of the happiest days of my life. This morning, your Swami Yogananda came to visit me. I felt great joy on beholding him, but I decided to test him and see whether he was really as good a man as he looked. I spoke to him as rudely as I knew how. Yet he remained so calm and answered me so kindly that I tell you, in all sincerity, he passed my test better than I would have imagined possible. And I will tell you something more. Never mind the numbers of your graduates who are becoming monks. India has many monks. But if you can produce even one such man as this, not your school only, not only our city, but our whole country will be glorified. Well, there are numbers of people, as we well know, both current perhaps and historical figures that have had an incredible impact, as Yogananda and the great saints and the many saints of India have had. And one such, Gandhi, world famous, of course, had tremendous tapas to throw out the British after a 30-year effort. Incredibly stubborn. As Yogananda said, I attract stubborn people. And even Yogananda gave Gandhi Kriya when he went to India in the mid-30s. Quite an amazing figure. And George Washington, we have a dual karma here. He threw out the British too, a couple hundred years prior. And it was an enormous, enormous feat because he had a ragtag army back in the 1700s, and it looked like the English, almighty English, were going to completely stomp over him. And he didn't need this. He was one of the wealthiest men in America. This was a time of true austerity with snow and very harsh conditions. And he had that calling. And when Yogananda went to Washington, D.C., when he was there in the 20s, he put a wreath on George Washington's grave. And I was touched by that. We went to Mount Vernon, which was George Washington's home. And I didn't know what to expect. And I went out on the porch, the veranda by the Potomac, and the vibration was strong. Thought, wow, these people that are willing to give of themselves selflessly, even their life as Gandhi did. What an incredible impact they have, not only in that present time, but of course, perhaps for centuries more. Mandela, 27 years in prison. And it was an incredible experience for him. He had a family. He wasn't even able to see his daughter until she was 16. Amazing. And yet he turned around South Africa. And so these are, of course, colossal figures, Renaissance men, as the great saints are, and so many others. And so we think, well, is that too much for me? How can I measure up? Well, it's not about that. We're children of God. We don't have to be thinking in terms of this is a giant and I'm just a pygmy. That doesn't make any sense and doesn't do anything for us except perhaps confuse us or run us around in circles. Rather, we should be thinking in terms of the many good gifts that we have been given. And they have been gifts in abundance, true abundance. And so we have to capitalize on that by our own self-effort. Self-effort draws grace, and do what we can to, again, lift consciousness. Again, as Ananda Ma said, the great saint in the autobiography of Yogi, if everyone meditated, wars would cease instantly, because it's all about consciousness. And so particularly at this time when there is, so much turmoil, endless suffering, there's just, there's no need for it. But such is the experience we're having in this dream world. We need all the more to do what we can in our meditation and in the various things that we do in our sadhana, in self-improvement, to make a difference. I remember years ago when I was a monk, there wasn't much incentive. I love to meditate, love to serve, but there really wasn't that much incentive when I gave it a little bit of time in seclusion. And I thought, well, gee, this is not a good thing. I have to dig around and see, what's going to propel me. And I wasn't surprised when I began to think more in terms of world kriyas. Don't just do kriya for yourself, lift the entire world. Lift the creation, lift your neighborhood, lift your home. Don't just do these things for ourselves. And right away, my whole attitude turned around, because at that point, though I was a monk and this and that and dedicated, still there was, my liberation. And I thought, well, I'm going to put that to side. If Divine Mother wants to run around and just act like an idiot through me for incarnations, and then if she's having fun, then I'm happy. Because, why did Yogananda say you must be joyous and happy at all times? Because when we're happy, then Divine Mother says, oh, I'm so happy that you're enjoying my play. And if we're being grumpy, then she thinks, oh, I wish that you could work on your attitude, because I thought we were all going to be having fun together. I think fun, tell me, how do you define that? When we're in a lower state, it's not fun. But when we work on lifting our consciousness, then we see with new eyes, because then the heart is open and then the mind is bright. Swami used to tell this story of these people that left their village and found this high wall, and they were very intrigued by it. And it was very high. And so they had to stand on each other's shoulders in order for one to get to the top. And when he did, he shouted with joy, jumped over. Well, the others thought he would come back. I mean, with that kind of response, you think they were all friends, he would come back. He didn't come back. So then the other one thought, oh my goodness. And so somehow he managed to get up the wall. Same thing, shouted with joy, jumped over, and didn't come back. So the last one was starting to see a pattern. Thought, now what are we going to do about this? So he found some kind of a tree, leaned it against, everyone was gone now, leaned it against the wall, climbed up, and saw why they did not come back. He couldn't blame them. It was paradise. Beautiful, beautiful garden. And so he too was about ready to jump and embrace his reward. We thought, all the people back in the village, they don't know about this. Let me go back. And that's what these great saints do for us. As Yogananda shared the astonishing statement, he come back 1 trillion times. Oftentimes I think, let's see if we can count up to 1 million. If we do that, let's go to 1 billion. If we do that, and on and on. Trillion is a really large number. It's an incredible commitment. And he was making that statement just for one. If one is struggling, then I'll come back 1 trillion times if need be. And so bit by bit, we begin to appreciate that we do have a responsibility. And this responsibility of the spiritual life is not to be taken for granted, not for a moment. And so it's all about selflessness. And the fun of it is that we begin to discover, as Yogananda said, people think they're having fun, but they're not having fun. They have a night out on the town, and the next morning when it's time to go to the office, because it is Monday, they have a hangover. And this isn't good because they've got some targets, and their boss is a bit on a rampage and wants to make sure that everybody is in good shape for this week where we have to make our targets, etc. But now because we've had that night on the town, thinking we were having fun, bit by bit, over the incarnations, and in this one as well, we realize that there are certain things that really are not good for us. We may like them. Even Yogananda at one point became attached to ginger ale. I like ginger ale myself. And so it must have taken him a bit of willpower. And he was finding that ginger ale was something he wanted to have. He said, okay, that's it. He renounced ginger ale, never had it again. I thought, gee, I'm not up for that. I don't have ginger ale very often, every couple of months at most. But still, we began to appreciate that anything that's in our hearts that's not helping the cause, we do not want. It's debris. It needs to be cleaned out. And that's what Kriya is about. I've been having also an enjoyable experience, and this was after reading one of Swami's books. It's up there in the library. It's a book of essays. And I stumbled upon one, there's quite a variety there, on the final exam. And I thought, well, this is good, at my age, the final exam. This is the final exam, of course, for all of us, because we really need to take seriously the spiritual life. Day one, as Yogananda said, if we could be in that honeymoon place, when we first found that book, that friend, whatever it might be, we'd find God very quickly. And so I was delighted when I was reading about the final exam, and Swami was giving, of course, this is passing from this world to the next. And he was saying, well, it's also good to cram for the final exam. And I could relate to that because I used to cram Sunday night for a couple of hours, because if I brought home grades that were a little less than average, then I'd be grounded. And that was something that was horrifying to contemplate, not to mention to experience. I couldn't go out and see my friends and do all the things I like to do. So I crammed very often. But the rest of the week I was playing. My home was a hotel. And I would just race in and with my friends and eat up everything in the refrigerator and head off, to the ocean and so forth. And so, but Sunday night I had to do my work because I was going to have to show them the report card. And my brother, my older brother, he never studied. He got the highest marks, all A's. And I just thought, man, what is this? He never studied. He was an artist. He was just always doing his art. And really a fine artist too. And so there it was. I had to cram, and he just continued to paint away the injustice of this world, And so bit by bit, we begin to take to heart that really it's all about having enough distance from ourselves in the watchful state, being the jnani, that we begin more and more It's like intuition is a muscle, and you have to work with intuition in order to build the muscle of intuition. And so it is with selflessness. In the beginning, it just seems like one austerity after another. And we think, oh, I'm not having that much fun on the spiritual path. It's just, as Swami one time went to Yogananda and said, please help me to overcome my desire for good food. And Master smiled and he said, forget that. There's almost nothing left for yogis to enjoy, after we've given up so many things. So go have an ice cream. And he added, when ecstasy comes, everything goes. And so we began to, and that's why we spend time with one another. Even Yogananda said, if you have a wholesome desire, go after it. I think, oh my goodness, I have to read that again. What? I thought we were supposed to be free of all these desires, and yet Yogananda was very practical. He said, be practical in your idealism. And there's nothing more practical than being balanced and be integrated so that we know ourselves to the extent, and it takes some doing, where we've fallen in love with ourselves and we're still a work in progress. How can we fall in love with ourselves when we're still not done? We still have these bad habits and this and that, because the joy takes over. And the other experiment I've been having is, again, this is the joy of being older. Even when I was younger, I thought it's going to be fun to be old. I just had that thought, and it is. It's also fun to be young, because now when I look at trees, I say, what a nice tree. When I was younger, I'd say, I'm going to climb the tree. As a matter of fact, I'm going to climb it right now. Now I'm enjoying it, just a nice tree. And so I've been having an experiment with Kriya, with meditation, thinking. Many hands make a miracle, as we say at Ananda. It's absolutely true. Satsang, all important. And so I said, well, this family, as the yogis talk about, live more in the spine. Obviously not the physical spine, the energy astral spine, the highway to the infinite. So I thought, well, I'm going to, when I begin my meditation, as I say good morning to the gurus and to God, Divine Mother, and so on, good morning, and good evening when I, call it quits for the day. I thought, why don't I see if it'd be fun to say good morning to the whole team, because it's a team effort. So good morning to the Kundalini, and good morning to the chakras, and good morning to the 1,000-petal lotus, and good morning to the spiritual eye. And then add to that, be generous with your joy. Be generous with your joy. Okay, we're meditating now, because joy is God and God is joy. And when we live a joyless life, or a joyless day, or a joyless hour, or whatever it happens to be, joyless time at work, we know we suffer because we're out of tune. That's all. To be in joy is to be in tune. But Yogananda said, to console ourselves, because finding this joy is a big project. He said, I'm in for the long haul. Finding joy is a long-term proposition. But we keep working at it and keep working at it and keep working at it, and bit by bit. And that's why, again, Yogananda said, find a little bubble of joy and puff on it. Anything. Maybe it was an experience some time ago with some friends. And we were in the park, and for some reason, the ants were on vacation. And so they weren't getting into our food. And it was perfect. The sun was shining, all the good things. So we can have a pilgrimage, not only to the shrines that abound in India, but to these enjoyable experiences, to remember there was that joy. Why? Because for some reason, Divine Mother wanted to go on a picnic with us. Maybe she even caught us by surprise. Let's go. Let's go have fun. She likes to have fun. That's why Yogananda said, first, this life is to be entertained and instructed. And I was so happy that it was the proper sequence. Not, we're here to be instructed, Sri Yukteswar, we're here to be instructed. And if there's anything left of your enthusiasm after that arduous, day, then okay, well, fine, go to a movie or eat an ice cream. We're here to be entertained. What does that speak of? Joy. That's what it speaks of. And that's why Swami Kriyananda, at a big symposium in Canada, when he was announced as the father of community, well, that's quite something. the father of spiritual communities. And so they wanted him to, talk a bit. And he said, the reason for community, spiritual community, is to have fun. Now, I don't remember if he continued on. I would imagine he did. But that was pretty much his opening statement. Fun is joy and joy is fun. So for us, really, with all of the turmoil and all of that, when we send light, we're sending joy, whether we're aware of it or not. When we send light, we're sending unconditional love. When we're sending light, we're finding bit by bit that it's true. My God, is it true that the instrument is blessed by that which flows through it? Absolutely. What came out of COVID? Our healing prayer ministry. And it's been, one of the most dynamic things that we've been doing. And no doubt we had a healing prayer ministry before, but it took off. And I thought, this is really, really good to have this in the center, the core of what we do, is to send that energy out in a selfless way. And so when we catch ourselves orbiting around ourselves a little too much, then we should say, come on now, we're overdoing. We need to spend more time in prayer. And the blessing of the spiritual path is these discoveries that we make. And the willingness, because it takes that, and the courage to call on God and Guru. They're right here. They're thought away. And as Yogananda said, if you, how can I come in if you, again, the door is closed? If the door is closed, how can I get in? He said, all I mind is your indifference, which of course is a closed door. And so we begin to find ways, because it's fun. We are scientists. We're experimenting. We wouldn't be on this path. We wouldn't have a path if we weren't really bold in our experimenting. There's no way. And the stories that we have, again, our favorite thing is to hear one another's stories. Wow. It's just awesome how people had to negotiate, the relatives and perhaps the financial issues and their environment and God knows what. And we continue to, of course, because once that grace comes, never let it go. Because we have a shot at finding God in this lifetime. Yogananda wouldn't have said, you should at least go after Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And you think, oh my God. I would have thought he'd say, you should at least have good thoughts. You should at least, because he comes in with that power. That's why he would run onto the stage. How feels everybody? He wouldn't even begin speaking before thousands there in the many, many halls, large halls throughout the states, with his hair flying back at times, running onto the stage. How feels everybody? How is everybody? And until that vibration was strong enough, sincere enough, awake and ready was the response, then, he wouldn't begin, because what were they going to get? Perhaps I'd share with you, it's a classic. During one of these lectures, two men got up and walked out. He said, get back here and sit down. You'll never hear a lecture like this again. I thought, what teacher would do that? God, no teacher would do that. See me after the satsang if you've had, that experience. But a master who is all unconditional love and only cares. He was those two people walking out. They're omnipresent. He knew that they had gone through the door. They'd gone into that blessed experience of there they were in the presence of a great master. And then they were leaving. What? Because they were hungry? They wanted a coffee, wanted to smoke. Sit down. And so that's for us too. When we start to get, off track, into the brush, rather than taking the broad highway, we find that we have to discipline ourselves, but with joy. There has to be that. Otherwise, what good is that? We have to discipline ourselves with the inner sanction. Now it's time to meditate more. Recently, I rediscovered yoga postures. And when I heard about yoga postures done in the chair, I thought that was funny. I'm doing yoga postures in the chair now. And I can do yoga postures in the ground. But my point being is that I begin my meditation. I think, you know something, if I do about 5. If I did a few yoga postures, I know what they do. They just take moments. And you're just right there. You think, oh my God, how could have I forgotten this for, I won't tell you how long. And we begin bit by bit, like the experiment is, hi guys, how's it going? The chakras and all that stuff. Other people, if you said that, they would think you were crazy and they would have good reason for it. But for all of us with an inner life, we can boldly experiment and share perhaps some of the things if we feel to. So yoga postures in the chair. I think, oh my God, this is great and such a benefit. So we want to keep on working toward higher consciousness. That's what it's all about. And it's completely anchored in being selfless. The more we can put aside all of these various things that we think are so important, seek ye first the kingdom of God, right out of the Bible, and all these things shall be added unto you. Why is this world in turmoil? They almost have it, except it's backward. Seek ye first everything, not just one car, but 2 and 2 houses and a few other things, fill the whole chest with all the goodies. And then maybe we're 80 or something, then, seek God if we're still on this earth plane and the body is still functioning in the mind. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. There's nothing more practical than putting God first and making God and Divine Mother our companion, because they really, really know what they're doing. They know how to lift consciousness. They know how to get us to maneuver throughout the day in a way that's kind and compassionate, peaceful, all of those things. So for us, of course, it's spending more and more time with Divine Mother. And when she wants to go to a movie, she'll nudge you. Go to that movie. Don't go to a movie if she doesn't want to go. You're not going to have a good time. It's guaranteed. We know that from trial and error. So more and more, we want to just do everything. Divine Mother, let's go to work. Oh, you don't want to go to work today? Great. Let's go to the park. You never know. Just like Yogananda is saying, sit down. You never know what Divine Mother is doing, because Krishna was, of course, mischievous, and so was Divine Mother. But the main thing is to spend time with her 24/7. That's what it's all about. God bless.